you again. Now we're live now. Good. It's good to be back with you again, Stan. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, our number two, second chance to communicate with you. How are things in Moscow? How's the weather today?
Not bad, not bad for this time, for this season. Hello everybody who watching us today, and today we'd like to focus on our series between Tate Ulsaker and Stan Grafski on the topic of gathering practical applications of gathering truthful market information on the Russian market. And if you want to learn a few ideas how to make big returns on one of the most promising markets these days, which is Russia, just keep listening to us. Once again, we're continuing our series today, and it's a live discussion between Tate Ulsaker, an American living in New Zealand, who's got over 20 years of experience dealing on the Russian market, entrepreneurial experience, so it's much, much better than being just a payroll guy, the guy who touches everything by his own hands and feels by his own pockets. So Tate, if you don't mind, let me ask you a few questions, which might be of practical interest to our listeners. You set up a company in Russia in the 90s, and it's still active. Very interesting, and which is not a secret. You are my regular supplier for market researchers for my clients. How actually did you make it to get into that role of providers services to multinationals on the Russian market?
Well, thanks for the chance to communicate again with you, Stan, about, I think anyone who's investing in Russia wants to know who they're dealing with and what the methods are and what the sources are. So a bit about me. My name is Tate, and I went to Russia for the first time in '93. I really enjoyed the experience there, and I decided to stay. So I moved everything I owned before I had a job and came to the airport and rented a place to live. After a year or two, from '93 to about '95, I found work at Dun & Bradstreet, the global research company that provides financial information primarily on larger companies mostly. So that was a good experience, and I got to meet a lot of people and get familiar with a lot of Russian sources and people working at the sources and how those sources are used by Russian companies and multinational companies. And I set out with a couple of partners, some from Dun & Bradstreet, to Moscow, went from St. Petersburg to Moscow. In '97, we formalized the structure of Direct Info. And from there, we started to supply market reports, which we believe was done in a better way. And we believed it was done by listening to the clients there in Moscow. So it was a different thing. It wasn't purely financials on companies. It was using trade statistics and production statistics, and we just branched out wider, and we found some innovative ways to use registration. So well, I can get into that a little bit later, but generally, yes. So we've got plugged in from Dun & Bradstreet, then owned company, and started off going to multinationals like Bayer and well, they were dealing with it's hard for me to even start talking about the companies. There's 400. Every market segment was represented: pharmacy, tobacco, FMCG, the soft drinks, foreign beer, autos, metal companies, oil and gas. It was a huge amount of big name multinational companies. Probably more than half of the top 100 brands that you see have been in some way using us. But I have to tell you, it's niche reports. So we're not talking about huge amounts of money. We're talking about something that can be sold for between $5,000 and $15,000 on average. So the highest is, maybe 50, 60,000 for large. The largest that these big name companies will sell, that obviously they do the turnkey, they're much bigger. They're 10 times bigger on average. So we were in between, as a market niche, we were in between the big name multinational companies providing big services to multinational clients mostly, and the ocean of resources available to the Russian market from the different contact points. So a few of those contact points where we get sources, for example, Goskomstat, which is providing statistics on production and financial information, and as well the trade statistics that come from customs. This information is invaluable as a first stop because it's so quick to get very useful and comprehensive benchmarking information on products coming and going, as well as companies. People say, well, you can't trust what people report in the financial. Well, the point isn't to get exact information and treat it as if it's the gold standard of truth, each digit. That's not the point. The point is to benchmark where companies sit against each other in the market, and where they report is very important for that. And as a first step, it's relatively very cheap, and it gives you a big, broad picture with indicative information. We're not looking for the gospel truth from the high mountaintops. We're looking for indicative information useful for understanding what's going on in the Russian market. And for that, the secondary statistics from the state authorities was very useful, and sometimes very useful for exact needs. We can get into that a little bit later too, if you're interested. So that's a bit about me and a bit about what I offer.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. But perhaps we can get a bit closer to some samples of researchers you did. I know you served hundreds of multinationals.
Yeah, hundreds of multinationals. Yeah, and contracts that you know, we still have. We won't show the contracts themselves, I don't suppose, but I mean the signatures are there, the documents are there, going back to '97. Relationships are there, reports are there, thousands of reports. We have those reports to go back to anytime someone needs something. So the thing is, when you come to Russia, you come with apprehension, you come with excitement, you come with an understanding that this is a threatening place with a lot of opportunity. If I do everything right, I get a lot of returns on my investment. If I make big mistakes, I'll be in a lot of trouble. And generally, that was true in the 90s. Well, I can say it was very true in the 90s. Things have changed. Russia's much more stable now. The government has control. Some examples about how we have used these statistics. So, do you know this guy, Brinsalov? Brinsalov is a colorful character who was in the pharmaceutical market. He was in the alcohol market. What was his first name? I don't remember now. But we did a map. Sorry? Vladimir Brinsalov.
Okay.
So we did a map for a pharmaceutical company that was upset about some things that happened with his use of some information and technology that was shared between them. And here's a real colorful character, and what they wanted from us, it doesn't matter really what it was for. It just paints a more colorful background if I say this is for a colorful character who was being accused of doing something wrong that was in breach of a partnership, and they wanted to know how he was connected to other structures and how he might use this information. So that's really all I knew. I didn't know details, and I'm not supposed to know. I just give reports. The more I know about what I need to know, I can paint a picture for them. So they wanted to know, give me all the networks connected to this man and to these companies. And so we painted, we had this picture with, it looked like a spaghetti. It was interconnected companies, probably 100 companies on a large piece of paper with different shares connected, some directly, some indirectly, some through 3 companies down, the shareholding structures. And this is quite typical, at least it used to be quite typical at the time we were doing this, and at this time for this pharmaceutical company. I'm not sure what the pharmaceutical market looks like now, whether they've cleaned up or not. But a lot has changed since the 90s, that's for sure.
What about major if not destinations, the countries, or let's say investors' supply, if you like, in the last 5-10 years, and which companies you think might benefit more in terms of information gathering, well, market-wise, obviously.
Well, let's take a complex example. Let's say that someone is wanting to start or has already a factory a food factory, very competitive food factory in Russia. They have a multinational brand. So we do work for multinational brands already entrenched in Russia. They might open up another segment or a product unit, and or they might just open up another city, or they might want to expand in a city. Okay, so they're already in Russia. They already know a lot. How can we help them? All right, so having a good picture of the distribution channels is important. So what we do is we offer two waves to get there. Wave number one, we always default to the official statistics. So coming up with how the products are moving in and how the production reports show and how the financials show on the companies that are involved in those two areas. That will give an indicator of where the market is on the official statistics. Wave two approaches experts who are in the distribution channels, and we interview them. We interview them to find out what they know, and a lot of times people are quite open and they share information that can be useful. Other times they're closed. Sometimes they treat it as an opportunity to sell, more to another interested company. So we do this blind opinion research on the distribution channels, and we give the company information on new targets, estimates of the breakdowns and how these products are marked up through the channels and the volumes that go through them on a city basis or however they want. This is an intensive, it's a labor-intensive work on the wave two, but wave one, it's more of a creative use of existing statistics. So that gives, I think, a clear picture of the extent of our capabilities. So we are a very powerful desk research company, niche research. So for that initial layer, how they apply that is not something that we've done. We haven't done what you've done, Stan. We haven't gone to the next level. It made introductions and made business actually happen with the contracts and exit strategies. I've discussed these things in friendly ways, but for the most part, what they want from me, from my machine, we can call it a machine. Direct Info is a machine that processes lots of information. We've got specialized software that's going through that information in a way that addresses the database structure itself and puts reports out in an automated way, not automatically all the time, but in an automated way. We get report components, and these components can be chapters or they can be whole reports themselves, but we fit them in. So for example, a trade statistics report, you can tell me a product you want to look at, where you want to analyze the imports from, for example, purely Europe or purely Germany, you take your pick. You want to analyze only the transports coming through certain channels, for example, St. Petersburg or the whole European border, and give the timeline, and we will show how that has gone through. And every time there's something learned. Every time you'll say, "Oh, I didn't see this company before. What are they doing?" Oh, if they're not part of your contract network, then obviously it's gray imports. Or it's a mistake. But mistakes generally, that people first say, "Oh, it must be a mistake." First thing people say, mistake, mistake. Generally, no. I don't recall more than maybe one or two mistakes from thousands. The mistakes it's not about accidentally putting a product name in there. It's about someone trading a product that shouldn't be. So that will always happen in any country. So you find these surprises.
Just curious. Would you mind expanding a little bit on the offers of similar researchers on the Russian market? In other words, if you're a new entrant, you know nothing, and you probably contacted someone just for initial representative, so whatever it is. How diversify this market, in your opinion, or put it a little bit different, if you like? How often you are contacted by your peers from maybe more premium segments for subcontract your services? Because as of me, I am quite often being subcontract by bigger players.
Yeah. To be quite honest, we have been in the past contacted quite a lot by big players who were looking for big money. That has slowed down, and I would say it's because the interest from abroad for direct investment has slowed down. But it's always really great to get a call from one of the big consulting or law companies, and they ask for a specific thing, and after you deliver, you have a friendly chat, and they tell you that it was included in a report that went for a very large deal for their side. And I'm always complimented that they would use me, and we're happy to work with these guys. We know that they can't do every detail of their large projects, but at the same time, they need to have what they order from us understandable, transparent, clear, and if there's any questions, get answers, because big money's on the line and deadlines are there. And so we adapt to this structure quite well with our mentality, and that's been from the beginning. What we've done is we've brought a classic Western business, customer always right sort of mentality to the Russian market, and we've kept it. And that's been an aspect that companies have found very comfortable to deal with, including, I might say, quite a lot of Russian companies. And nowadays, decision makers in Russia are all Russian, from the top to the bottom, nearly. What is your opinion about that? I'm seeing Russian CEOs more often. So with the direct investment slowdown, at the moment it's less than it used to be, but like I said before, the pickup is here. As we said in our previous interview, Stan, we've already come down from the bottom. All the big boys say the same thing. The analysts, global analysts for financial markets and for economies, have all said the same thing. Sanctions aren't working. Russia has rebounded, and the sanctions will only work less over time as Russia continues to consolidate strengths internally and with alternative trading partners. So the time is to get in now. Russians don't hold a grudge against the nationality. I'm an American citizen. I've never felt a problem in Russia because I was an American. Generally, this is a cultured country, with ballet and with symphonies and with paintings and great architecture. And they understand that people are individuals. I would wish that more of my own countrymen and women would understand that Russians are also individuals. And go to Russia, you can engage in trade, you can meet fantastic people. What you need to do is to find people like Stanislav, and if I might admit that my structure is also quite friendly. We're there to help, and we're not there to make a quick dollar. If we can't help you, question that you have, well, we'll just be honest. We'll say that question can't be handled by us. Generally, we can satisfy a lot of a question, even if it's very challenging, and you may decide not to use us. That's fine. Or you may decide to use us for that aspect that we're absolutely confident and strong in, and we have experience in, and you might use someone else for some other aspect of your needs when you enter the Russian market. And all of that is fair territory for discussion. That I welcome all discussion. I'm passionate about Russia. I'm passionate about the Russian market and about this opportunity that we're in right now, Stan. We're in a perfect position to capitalize on another boom, on a Russian boom, on the second or third Russian boom, post sanctions boom. So yeah, my door is open, my phone's open, my communication channels are open, and thanks for asking the questions. Did you have anything else, Stan?
Not really. I just wish to thank you for today's chat, and everyone who is watching us, or whether live or in recording, please do us a favor. If you find it to be interesting, subscribe to this channel, put your likes, and more importantly, shares and your questions, no matter which platform you will find this recording. If the questions are not touched upon yet, we would be happy to expand on with our mutual experience, which totals to nearly 50 years in this country, business experience. I noticed one of my competitors sometimes put the overall experience of 20 people, 80 years of overall experience in Russia, guys. I opened the first business in late 80s when it was outlawed. So know a little bit more than you guys. So we know the information from from the very fingertips, dealing with this environment. And if someone's interested in information which might affect going or not going onto the market, we will be very much happy to expand on those issues. Please communicate with us either through the forum or sending the questions directly. Look at the video below. You'll see the contact details, and we're very much happy to make it multi-party discussion, if you like, one day, if there is an interest. Again, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Tate. And let's meet soon then.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you. Thank you.